These two characters have excelled in their own right, but as the series continues, we start to see a little bit of their rivalry leak out. It was confirmed in chapter 204 that Jinpachi and Noel were once rivals. They were even teammates at once and were just comrades in arms. They are subtly showing more of this hidden rivalry in the latest chapter 231, as Snuffy says Asagi and Brawl's rivalry reminds him of Noah and Ego's rivalry. Now this was very surprising because no one has talked about Ego's time as a football player, or even seems to remember him. He must have been a forgotten player because he could not have been a terrible player if he was Noah's rival. These two had a twisted rivalry apparently, and if it was something like Asagi and Brawl, then I can only imagine how that all played out. However, Noah went on to become the best in the world from it, and Ego was cast aside and forgotten by the world. We still don't know why that happened, but we can speculate the exact reasons for it. This rivalry is very hidden and not many details are shown yet for it, but I'm sure it will all be revealed one day whenever the NEO finishes up. Ego and Noah don't seem to have a great relationship at all, and I want to see Ego directly talk to the Masters after the NEO is over and get their input on how the players are doing. Maybe we can finally find out this twisted rivalry that has been kept secret for so long. Now, Noel is saying he wants more evolved players when Snuffy was referring to Ego. This could possibly mean that Ego was not a player that was able to evolve. We see Ego constantly talking about evolving and turning into a better player from the challenges that he gives Blue Lock players to succeed in. This could have been due to Ego not being able to evolve himself. And why would he not be able to evolve? It could have been due to the international play and not being ready for it, or having Japanese football be in his ear, causing him to not be evolved like players in other countries. The NEL's purpose alone was to allow Blue Lock players to evolve even further to be able to compete in the World Cup. Ego's time as a player must have been a rough one, as he despises Japanese football and has no care for the current system. Something bad must have really happened to him, as he seems to be giving it his all to change Japanese football for that exact reason. His evolution could not happen due to his circumstances, and now he wants his dream to happen through Blue Lock. It's like Asagi for a moment. If Asagi hadn't gone in Blue Lock, he would have just been a rare talent that was being suppressed due to having to play as a team in high school, and Ego was able to change Asagi's perspective and let him follow into the egotistical striker he is now. Ego did not get that same opportunity and is now using his knowledge that he has gained of the world's best to use for the players of Blue Lock. Noel also said that Ego is obsessed with the world's best. Noel ended up becoming the world's best, but back when he was just rivals with Ego, he was not the world's best. These two ended up taking different routes due to their different ideals and eventual paths. Noel says that Ego was even possessed with his obsession of the world's best. This is something that needs to be looked into more. Ego had brought up Noel in his introduction to Blue Lock and talks about needing an ego to become the best striker in the world. He is possessed with the objective of winning, and to do that, he needs a player that has the ego to score at will and lead Japan to victory. He knows what the world's best do in their lives to be the best, how they play the game of football and what they do in their daily life, how they operate and how their ego was formed. He has garnered his obsession with the world's best to be able to create players who can also become the world's best. This is what Noel means when he says Ego is possessed by it. You can tell that Blue Lock is Ego's greatest creation, and he's not going to let it fall down without a fight. He has to put all the pieces in place to be able to win the World Cup, and now the NEL is a way to help the Blue Lock players improve, but also create value and get offers from pro teams. He's doing this all for the coverage and media of Japan to showcase that they can change and they can win the World Cup. His dedication and mission to prove this to the world shows just how obsessed he is. I don't mind his obsession, as Ego always came across as an edgy and weird guy, but that's the commitment and style he runs with to be able to keep Blue Lock in the game. Only time will tell just how this obsession will go, and you can tell that Blue Lock is riding with it. We have seen many players evolve and grow their own ego due to the environment in Blue Lock, something that you have never seen had they stayed at their high schools to go live a normal life. Ego once talked about players going overseas and how they get this misplaced confidence where their skills don't match up the same way it does in Japan, and there's a language barrier causing issues with language and communication. Ego is doing everything to prevent these same mistakes from happening. One thing he did was invent the new language earpieces that allows anyone to communicate regardless of the language. This is a brilliant idea, as no one can no longer have to worry about the language barrier and can continue to use their normal language anywhere they go. Many people think the person Ego was talking about was himself, and it could have very well been himself, but I don't really understand how he was able to become Noah's rival with a language barrier and unusable skills overseas. He probably could have been able to tackle these things, but still, it could have very well been someone else who Ego was referring to, and his playing career was stopped short due to something else. We don't know all the details yet, but Japan has been sending these so-called prodigies out and then they don't do anything special. Even someone like a Toshisai went out to become the greatest striker in the world and then comes back to Japan to realize he is not cut out to become a striker and instead needs to become a midfielder. I'm sure many others also felt the same way and either had to change positions or come back to Japan and play average football. Repeating that situation would only make Japanese soccer third rate forever, and Ego has no plans of that happening. He's already promised to create a genius with Blue Lock and is gambling his future on it. He has 100% certainty that he can get the job done and knows just what to do to accomplish it. Noel sees why Ego selected Hisagi in the first place. He reminds him so much of his first rival Ego that it completely makes sense to him. Noel definitely knows what happens to Ego's downfall, and now he gets to see just how different Hisagi can be through the teachings of Ego. Noel has already said that Hisagi's path can lead him right to Noah, and this makes sense as Hisagi looks up to Noah and comes to him a lot to talk about how to improve as a player. Noah's teachings are a little different from the other masters as he relies on logic and data for the team, and Hisagi and Blue Lock have come into bringing chemical reactions and stealing the goal from your teammates. Hisagi now has both the philosophies of Ego and Noah, and he can become a mix of the two to truly dominate the game. Noah can keep a close eye on Hisagi, and now he knows what he thinks. He probably thought Ego had the same potential as well, but he could not evolve like Noah said. This time is different because Hisagi keeps on evolving more and more. He won't stop now at all. We see Noah constantly taking shots at KiiNGKhyy to get a grip because he knows that Hisagi is getting closer to him. He even asks Hisagi how he plans to defeat KiiNGKhyy and understands his thinking to be able to do it. You can tell he stays an emotionless robot for most of the time, but he truly looks at times like he wants to help Hisagi because he sees his old rival in him and wants to see just how far Blue Lock can go in trying to achieve victory in the World Cup. We also need to theorize about Ego's backstory and playstyle and why he disappeared. We know that Hisagi reminds Noel of Ego, so let's assume that Ego played just like Hisagi and had good spatial awareness and a direct shot to be able to score goals. The biggest issue with Hisagi currently is his physical aspects are not that great, so he cannot score on his own for most of the time. Looking at Ego, I'm sure he was the same. Hisagi is surrounded with players now who help him score goals like Hiyori and Kurina. Let's say Ego also had someone like that. Ego did not have Blue Lock to cultivate a winning mindset of a striker to be on par with the world's best. That's why Ego is so possessed by it. He had no one around him on Japan who could think like him and act as a way to be the best in the world. Japan has been mediocre as Ego says, and that is because of their current beliefs and ideals. They just do not work and will never work for them in the future. Ego must have eventually found this out and realized he needed to change Japan, but he could not do it as a player. Therefore, he decides to hang up the banner and take time studying these elite groups. He also could have suffered a severe injury that did not allow him to return to the game of football. He is eventually recruited by Henri, so obviously Henri knew a little bit about this guy as well to agree to make him the leader of Blue Lock, a huge project. Ego knew he could not do it alone and needed an ally like Henri to help assist with making his dream of winning the World Cup a reality. Ego had to spend many years trying to study the world's best to be able to create a program suitable for creating egotistical strikers. It only makes sense so far as to how Ego knew so much about the master strikers and also set up training regimes so perfect that allowed players' egos to thrive even more. Ego's new goals now are to create a winning Japanese team that can win the World Cup. That is all he wants, and he will bet his entire future and career on it. He does not care about anything else and only wants to achieve victory. He knows it will be a long, hard-fought battle, but this is what he's preparing the Blue Lockers for. He doesn't want to go down without a fight and understands how good the world is. He will take responsibility for his actions and will create the opportunities for Blue Lock to shine. There is no team first base style of play for Japan anymore. Ego has been able to take over the whole roster for Japan's under 20 and is letting the NEL system be used to automatically select the top 23 players to join the lineup. In time, we will see how his game will pay off and just how far Blue Lock can go with the training that Ego has gave them. Many suspect that they will lose the under 20 World Cup and win in the future, but I don't think this is the case. The whole premise of Blue Lock is to win the World Cup now, not later. If they lose now, then what would happen to Blue Lock? They would all go to pro teams with their offers and they probably wouldn't come back the same, so that makes me think that Ego is trying to win now. He's not waiting for the players to be older. Ego also seems to look like he is someone that wants to coach younger players under 20 and not the older leagues. Just a guess, but maybe he can relate more to the younger generations and can connect with them differently. Well, these are just my thoughts on this topic, so let me know what you guys think about this rivalry and just what will Ego do next. Well, I thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back in the next one. Peace.